The desperate plea. The market square was always loud, filled with voices of traders, sounds of machines, and the smell of burning fuel. But today, the noise stopped all at once. The crowd went silent. Their eyes turned to the center, where a young alien woman had fallen to her knees. She was shaking, her arms wrapped around a small child. Her voice cracked as she cried out, "Punish me, not my child." Her skin was pale silver, her hair tangled from dust and fear. Her eyes, glowing faint blue, were full of tears. The child clung to her, small arms trembling. He did not understand the danger, but he felt the fear in his mother's voice. The enforcers stood tall in front of her, armored in black plates that reflected the dull light. Their weapons buzzed with energy. The leader raised his staff. Pointing at the child, his voice was cold. The law was broken. Punishment must be given. The crowd stayed back. No one dared to speak. Everyone knew what would happen next. In this city, under the rule of the alien overlords, mercy did not exist. Their laws were cruel, their punishments harsher. To them, a mistake was not forgiven, and weakness was not tolerated. The mother bowed low, pressing her forehead to the ground. Her voice grew desperate. "Take me, beat me, but please, please spare him." Her hands trembled as she held the boy closer. The enforcers laughed, the sound sharp and bitter. "Weakness only spreads weakness," one of them said. "The child must pay for the mother's failure." The boy buried his face into his mother's chest. His small voice whispered, "Mama, I'm scared." She kissed his head, whispering back, "Do not fear, my heart. I will protect you." Her words were brave, but her body shook with terror. At the edge of the crowd, a man stood. He was human. His clothes were simple, rough from hard labor. His hands were calloused, his face marked with scars of survival. To the aliens, he was nothing more than an outsider, a servant fit for dirty work. But his eyes burned with something they did not understand: compassion. He had heard the mother's cry. He had seen the staff raised against the child. And in that moment, something inside him moved. He knew he should stay silent. He knew speaking would bring danger upon himself. But he could not. His heart was too heavy with the weight of what he saw. The human stepped forward. His boots echoed against the stone floor. The crowd gasped. Whispers rose quickly. "A human," someone muttered. "He will get himself killed," another said. The enforcer leader turned, narrowing his eyes at the man. "Stay back, human," he ordered. "This does not concern your kind." But the man did not stop. His voice was steady. "It concerns me when cruelty is done in front of me." The crowd froze, shocked by his words. No human had ever spoken so boldly. The enforcers sneered, their weapons humming louder. "Do you wish to take the punishment instead?" one mocked. The human looked at the mother and the child. Their fear, their helplessness, it tore at him. He nodded. "If pain must fall, let it fall on me." The square went silent again. The alien mother looked up, her eyes wide. She had expected no help, not from her own people, and certainly not from a human. Her lips trembled. "Why?" she whispered. "Why would you risk yourself for us?" The human's eyes softened. "Because no child should suffer for the sins of others." The enforcers growled. They raised their staffs higher. One snarled, "Then you will share their fate." The human did not flinch. He stood tall, his shoulders firm. He was only one man, unarmed, outnumbered. But his presence carried a strength that was more than muscle. It was the strength of kindness, of courage. The child peeked out from his mother's arms, staring at the human. His small eyes filled with wonder. For the first time, he saw hope. For the first time, he saw someone willing to stand against the cruelty of the world. And in that heavy silence, as the enforcers prepared to strike, the story of mercy and defiance truly began. The human steps in. The enforcers' weapons glowed brighter, humming with deadly energy. The crowd held its breath. No one dared to move. All eyes were on the strange sight. A lone human standing against armored warriors. The alien mother clutched her child tighter. Her heart raced. She had begged for mercy, but she never imagined a stranger, a human no less, would answer her plea. She wanted to warn him, to tell him to step back, but her voice was lost in fear. The leader of the enforcers sneered. "Look at this creature. Does he think himself a savior?" His voice carried mockery, yet there was unease hidden in his eyes. He had punished countless beings, but never before had a human dared to challenge. The human did not speak at once. He walked closer, slowly, his every step echoing like thunder in the silence. When he stopped, his voice was calm but sharp. "You call yourself just, yet you strike at a child." Gasps ran through the crowd. No one spoke to the enforcers in such a way, not even their own kind. The leader raised his staff and pointed it directly at the human. "Do you value your life so little?" he asked. "Do you wish to be broken alongside them?" The man's eyes did not waver. "Life means nothing if I must stand silent while cruelty rules the street." For a moment, time seemed to pause. The words settled over the crowd like a storm. Some aliens shifted uncomfortably, as if a buried truth had been spoken. The mother's tears stopped, replaced with a strange spark of hope. The enforcers laughed harshly, trying to cover their unease. "You humans are weak, fragile. You think your words can shield them?" The human took another step forward. Now he stood between the mother and the enforcers. His voice was steady. "If you must strike, strike me, but this child will not be touched." The little boy peeked again from behind his mother's arms. His small eyes locked on the human's tall figure. In that instant, he whispered softly, "Protect her." The word was barely heard, yet it carried across the silence. It landed like a stone in water, sending ripples through the hearts of those watching. The enforcer leader's face twisted with anger. "Then protect her. Let us see how long you last." He raised his staff high, ready to deliver the first blow. But the human did not flinch. He lifted his chin, his shoulders straight, his heart pounded, but his courage burned brighter. The crowd could feel it now. Something was different. It was not muscle, not weapons, not power that stood before them. It was defiance born from compassion, a force even the armored enforcers did not understand. The mother whispered through trembling lips, "Why? Why would a human risk his life for us?" The man glanced at her, his eyes soft but firm. "Because mercy is stronger than fear." The words fell heavy and deep, and for the first time, the enforcers hesitated. Clash of wills. The staff came down with a sharp crack. The sound tore through the air like lightning. The human raised his arm, and the blow struck his flesh. The crowd gasped, expecting him to fall, but he did not. He staggered. Pain shot through him, yet he stayed standing. The enforcer snarled, "Foolish human." He swung again, this time aiming for the man's chest. The strike landed, but once more the human did not fall. He gritted his teeth, his breath heavy. Still, he did not move aside. Behind him, the alien mother's heart pounded. She could not believe what she saw. A man with no armor, no weapon, taking the punishment meant for her child. She pressed her hand over her mouth, tears streaming down her silver cheeks. The boy peeked from her arms, his wide eyes filled with awe. "He doesn't fall, Mama," he whispered. His voice carried both fear and wonder. The crowd began to stir. Their whispers grew louder. "How is this possible?" one asked. "He should be broken already," said another. Never had they seen such defiance from a human. The leader of the enforcers grew furious, his pride wounded. His voice thundered, "You dare make a mockery of us? You dare stand against the law?" He raised his staff again, this time charging it with a surge of energy. Sparks danced at the tip, deadly and bright. The human's chest rose and fell. He was tired, his body ached, but his eyes remained sharp. He whispered to himself, "If I fall, the child will fall too." That thought gave him strength. The staff came forward with a flash, but the human's hand shot out, catching the glowing weapon in his palm. The energy burned his skin, smoke rose, yet his grip did not loosen. His voice was steady. "No child will suffer while I breathe." The crowd erupted in gasps. Many stepped forward without thinking, their hearts moved by the sight. Courage stirred in them, for the first time in years. The enforcer's eyes widened. His power was held back by a single human hand. "Impossible," he growled. "You are nothing." The human met his gaze, his voice low, but filled with iron. "I am human, and that is enough." The alien mother stared at him as though she were seeing something holy. Her lips moved without sound, a silent prayer. Her child gripped her tighter, whispering, "Protect her, protect her." The clash was no longer only of weapons. It was a clash of will, of cruelty against mercy, of fear against courage. And though the human bled, though his hands burned. He stood firm, refusing to bow. The crowd began to shift. A few aliens lowered their heads in shame. Others clenched their fists as if they, too, wished to resist. For the first time, the enforcer's grip on fear began to weaken. And in that moment, under the dull sky of the market square, one human had become more dangerous than an army. The turning point. The market square pulsed with silence. The enforcers stood frozen, their leader's staff still caught in the human's burned hand. Smoke curled from his skin, yet he refused to let go, his eyes locked with the alien leader's, steady and unafraid. The leader hissed, "You dare defy us?" His voice trembled with anger, but also with something new. Fear. No one had ever seen an enforcer hesitate before, but now, under the gaze of one human, his hand shook. The human's voice was quiet, but it cut through the air. Mercy is not weakness. Mercy is strength. When you harm the helpless, you show only your own fear. The crowd stirred. Words whispered from mouth to mouth. Simple words, but powerful. Many aliens who once bowed their heads now lifted them. Some clenched their fists. Others straightened their backs. It was as if the human's pain was breaking the chains of silence around them. The alien mother stared at him, her lips trembling, her heart, once drowning in despair, now sparked with hope. She whispered softly, "He fights for us, for my child." Her child's small voice echoed hers. "Protect her." The leader snarled, trying to regain control. He yanked the staff back with all his strength. The human stumbled but did not fall. His knees bent, blood dripped from his hand. Yet he stood again. His chest rose like a mountain against the storm. The enforcers raised their weapons together, forming a wall of glowing light. "End him," the leader commanded. Their weapons hummed, energy ready to strike. The crowd gasped. Mothers covered their children's eyes. Men turned away, afraid of the sight to come. But before the strike fell, the human lifted his arms wide. His voice rang like a bell. "Strike me if you must, but know this. Every blow you give me proves your weakness, and every breath I take proves humanity's strength." The words struck deeper than the weapons ever could. The crowd shook. Some aliens shouted in agreement. "Enough. He speaks truth." Others pushed closer, breaking the circle of fear. The enforcers hesitated. Their weapons still glowed, but their hands were not steady. The leader's rage grew hotter. "Silence," he roared. "We are the law. We are power." Yet in that moment, his words sounded hollow. His authority cracked, and all because a human, broken and bleeding, refused to bow. The mother's tears turned from sorrow to fierce pride. She pulled her child close, whispering, "Remember this day, my son. Remember the human who stood when no one else would." The turning point had come. Cruelty had been challenged, and for the first time in years, hope began to breathe in the hearts of the oppressed. And though the human's body swayed with pain, his spirit only grew stronger. The hidden strength. The glow of the enforcer's weapons lit the square. The energy hummed like a storm waiting to strike. The human stood in the center, his body scarred and bleeding, but his spirit unbroken. His arms hung heavy, yet his eyes burned brighter than the weapons pointed at him. The leader gave the command, "End him." The first strike came. A weapon lashed across his back. The sound cracked through the air. The crowd winced, expecting him to fall. But he did not. He staggered forward, his knees bent, his breath ragged. Yet he stood. Another strike followed. Sparks flew. The human gasped in pain. His hands trembled, blood dripping to the stone. But his voice, weak yet unshaken, rose above the silence. "I will not kneel." The crowd froze, their hearts pounding. Never before had they seen such will. A fragile human, chained by weakness in their eyes, now stood stronger than their rulers. The child cried out, "Protect her." His tiny voice pierced the heavy air, and at that cry, the man straightened his back again, his shoulders squared, his pain turned to fire. The enforcers snarled, striking harder, but something was wrong. Each blow they delivered did not break him. It revealed his strength. He caught one of the glowing whips in his burned hand. The energy burned his skin, but he clenched tighter, refusing to let go. Gasps erupted from the crowd. He caught it. He stopped it. Voices whispered. Awe filled the square. The leader's fury grew, his face twisted. You are nothing, human. Nothing. But the man lifted his head, his voice steady though his body shook. If I were nothing, I would already be lying at your feet. But I am standing, and I will keep standing until this child is safe. The crowd roared, not with fear but with rising courage. Their whispers turned into shouts. He is right. Enough of this cruelty. The enforcers looked around. Unease spread across their ranks. For the first time, they felt the weight of the people's eyes not in fear but in defiance. The alien mother held her child close. Her tears now burned with hope. She whispered, "Do you see, my son? Strength is not in armor, nor in weapons. It is here." She pressed her hand against his small chest, in the heart. The child nodded, his eyes fixed on the human. He whispered again, "Protector." But this time, the word carried power, as if the whole crowd felt it. The human stood, bleeding, trembling, yet his figure loomed larger than life. And in that fragile, burning moment, mercy itself had become the sharpest blade. The shift in power. The square no longer felt silent. It trembled with the voices of the people. What began as whispers had become cries. The human stood at the center, wounded but unbroken, his burned hand still clutching the glowing weapon, his chest heaving, yet his eyes steady. The enforcers drew back, uncertain, their weapons hummed, but their hands shook. They had always ruled with fear, but now, before their eyes, fear was breaking. From the crowd, a deep voice shouted, "Enough!" Another voice followed, "No more cruelty." Then another, "We will not bow." Soon dozens joined. Their voices rose like thunder. The leader of the enforcers spun around, his eyes wide, his controls slipping. "Silence!" he roared, slamming his staff to the ground. Sparks flew, but the crowd did not fall quiet. Instead, they grew louder, their courage fed on the human's defiance. The mother stood, pulling her child to her side. Her silver skin glowed under the harsh light. Her voice rang clear. "This human bleeds for our children, and we hide? No more." The crowd gasped. The words of a mother, trembling yet bold, cut through every heart. The child pointed to the human, his voice pure, "Protector." The single word spread like fire. The people began to chant it, "Protector, protector, protector." The human's knees nearly gave out, his vision blurred from pain and blood loss. But when he heard their voices, his body found strength again. He lifted his head. He raised the broken weapon still glowing in his hand. The enforcers hesitated. Their leader snarled, but even his voice cracked. "Do not be fooled. He is only one man." But the crowd shouted back, "One man is enough to stand. One man is enough to wake us." Their chant grew louder, echoing against the stone walls of the square. The enforcers looked around. For the first time, they saw not fear in the people's eyes but fire, the strength of many rising as one. The human spoke, his voice weak yet sharp. "If you strike me again, you do not strike only a human. You strike all who believe in mercy." The words cut deep. The enforcers' ranks faltered. Some lowered their weapons. Their leader growled in rage, but he too could feel it. The shift, the power that once kept the people silent was slipping through his hands. The mother fell to her knees, not in despair but in gratitude. Her voice broke with tears. "Mercy lives again, through him." The chant of the crowd grew until it shook the very ground. "Protector, protector, protector." And in that moment, a wounded human, standing alone against cruelty, had become the spark of something greater than himself. Hope. The resolution. The chant shook the square. "Protector, protector, protector." It rolled through the air like a storm. Every corner echoed with the cry of hope. The enforcers stepped back, their lines breaking. Fear no longer chained the people. Courage now carried them forward. The leader roared in rage, striking the ground with his staff. Sparks flew. "I am the law," he screamed, but his voice was drowned in the thunder of the crowd. He raised his weapon to strike again, but his hand trembled. For the first time, his power meant nothing. The human stood tall, though his body swayed with exhaustion, his skin burned, his hands bleeding, yet his presence was unshaken. He lifted his gaze, his voice steady though faint. "Law without mercy is only cruelty." The words silenced even the fiercest voices. They fell like a hammer of truth. The leader faltered, his staff shaking, his power broken not by strength of arms, but by strength of spirit. Then it happened. One enforcer lowered his weapon. His eyes fell to the ground. Another followed. Then another. Their ranks cracked. One by one. They stepped back, leaving their leader alone. The mother rushed forward, falling beside the human. Her child clung to the man's leg, tears streaming down his small face. "Protect her," he whispered, not as a cry of fear, but as a name of honor. The human knelt, resting a trembling hand on the boy's head, his voice soft. "No child will suffer while kindness stands." The leader staggered back, his pride shattered. He spat in anger, but his power was gone. The people surged forward, not with violence, but with unity. His staff clattered to the ground as he fled, swallowed by his own fear. The crowd erupted in cries of victory. Mothers embraced their children. Fathers raised their voices. The air, once heavy with despair, was now alive with hope. The mother bowed her head to the human, her voice shaking with gratitude. "You saved us," she whispered. But the human shook his head. "No, mercy saved us. It is mercy that breaks chains, not cruelty." The crowd cheered louder. Some fell to their knees in respect. Others lifted their hands to the sky. The chant returned, not of fear, but of honor. "Protect her. Protect her." The child looked up at him with shining eyes. "Will you stay with us?" The human smiled faintly, though pain still marked his face. "I will walk where mercy is needed," he replied. "But remember, true strength is not mine alone. It lives in all of you." And with that, the story of one man's defiance, one man's kindness, became more than a moment. It became a legend. From that day forward, in every corner of the city, the people remembered the human who stood against cruelty, not with hate, but with mercy. His name was never shouted. Only the title they gave him, whispered with pride and hope. Protector.